Hello, a very good evening, and welcome back to AFC Newsday. We're back. The new season, we're building up towards it. It's all exciting. There's signings happening, players leaving. It's that time of year. The sun's out, good mood, and I'm really excited to bring AFC Newsday back after a long summer. I hope everyone's well. Please do let us know in the comments how your summer is, how you're feeling about the transfers so far ahead of the new season, etc. My friend Matt is obviously here by my side. Matt, welcome back. It's great to be back. How was your summer, my friend?
Yeah, it's absolutely great to be back. Yes, but it's been pretty good, thank you. A mix between eventful and chill and being done with uni, so quite a bit of spare time and whatnot. But yeah, very good, thank you. How are you? How's
Yeah,
your
mate.
summer been?
Really well. Yeah, really well. Thank you. Yeah, summer's been great. Nice to get away and get some sunshine. But we're back again. We're ready to go. I can see you've got the muscle top on, mate. You've been hitting the gym as well, haven't you? I know you've got some gym content on your Twitter, but you've been loving that too, mate. You've been loving the gym and the life that comes with that, haven't you?
Mate, it's unbelievable. I honestly couldn't recommend gym enough to anyone. But yeah, I mean, the weather outside in the UK at the minute and the last week or so is
Mm.
it ever going to go back? Is it just staying like high 20s?
Oh, hopefully, man. Honestly, the longer it goes on, the better. Because I complain too much about the rain, and I've realised now that because of the amount I've complained, I can't say anything about it being too hot. I've just got to enjoy it, and I am enjoying it. And it is lovely to have the heat. Um, we did record our final episode of the season. I think what was it, like a month and a bit ago, and we had Karis on. We also had Yeam, and I'm delighted to say Yeam is back for the first one again. Yeam, welcome back to AFC Newsday. Our favourite guest. How are you?
I don't know. Oh, thank you so much. Your favorite guest. I'll have to tell Rohan that as well. Well, when I see Rohan next, I'll just say, yeah, I'm the favorite guest. Stay in your lane. No, it's good.
We love Rohan, but we love you too, Yeam, and you do a great job. So thank you for being there. Yeah, we had Karis on that final stream of last season, and I don't know if you boys have seen, but Karis actually made and produced Emile Smith-Rowe's leaving video that
wow.
that's gone around. So shout out to Karis. Yeah, definitely a round of applause for him and
What a
for
bloke.
what he's doing. And it's just we will get onto it, but an incredibly emotional occasion for someone like Smith-Rowe to leave Arsenal, and I thought he marked it really well with the video that he did. So shout out to Karis on that one. Gents, Yem, how was your summer? What did you get up to? Anything exciting? And did you watch any football that wasn't Arsenal? I know you said you went on holiday. Did you take in any kind of local football to some of the locations you went to at all, or was it just forget about football and then the season will come when it comes?
No, it was on during the Euros, so I did watch every Euros game.
Oh yeah.
So somehow anyway. So obviously it was in Greece. They had this amphitheater. I was in Greece for 3 weeks, and then this amphitheater actually that they put a projector on, and you watch. And I was watching. It was so surreal watching in this kind of Grecian structure, watching football on a big screen. Effectively, it was it was really nice. But that was watching the Euros. Other than that, I didn't try to. I think most of us just want to switch off a little bit from the football and just. I know for you, Dan, it's much more intense because obviously you've got other, your career is designed around it. But you just want to shut off a little bit and have a little bit of respite because it's, when you get back, you're excited, of course, but the season is emotional and draining. Certainly to me, it is. You go through so many highs and lows, and I think we were that close, and obviously, I think we all felt that last day dejection, if we call it that. So yeah, I was really glad to get on holiday. Just enjoy the time with the family and relax.
Well, it's great to have you back, man. And Matt, you had a nice holiday as well, getting the sun in. I saw you doing, what was it, tricep dips in the pool and everything. You're getting that workout everywhere you can, mate. When are you getting the Gymshark sponsorship? Is that on the way, or?
I'm waiting for the contact, to be honest.
Waiting
But
for
no,
it.
I also
do you know what? I did tricep dips as well. Bring me a drink, yeah. Bring me some food, yeah. Waiter, yes. That's my tricep dips. There you go. That's what I did.
Oh, I love it. No, yeah, I also went to Greece. I didn't have a gym there, so I tried to stay as fit as possible, swimming, press ups, and whatnot. But that kind of went out the window being ill. But other than that, it's really nice time away. By the way, absolutely legendary. The time of my flight on the way back for the final.
Yes.
The time of my flight clashed exactly with the time of the final, which my flight actually got delayed by the exact amount of time I needed to. Connected my hotspot to my laptop, watched the whole game, no problem, heard everything. Happy days.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, well, it could have been happier days. The you know, the Euros is what it was, and it was you know, it's a strange kind of experience for me because I went on holiday when it kind of started, so I was watching the you know, the opening week of games in Mallorca with Spanish commentary, which was quite an interesting experience. And I don't know why as well, but there were so many Germans in Mallorca, so many, you know, wearing that kind of purple German shirt that I think was really popular amongst them.
Lovely.
But like literally, like honestly, every other group of people that I saw when I was out and about in Mallorca was wearing that shirt. There's so many. I don't know if you know it's a popular tourist destination for Germans, Mallorca, but you know a lot of football fans out and about, and that was really quite cool to see up there. And then you know England going all that way, getting through to the final. It was, you know, we're not going to go into it because it was, you know, something to move on, definitely something to move on from. But you know, it was an enjoyable summer, and what a summer it's been, by the way, with some of the different sports we've had. You know, we've had boxing. There's been the football season ending, which was just, you know, dramatic across all of the leagues, the Championship, League One, the Premier League as well, and all the different, you know, relegation, top four kind of battles. You've then had the Euros. You now got the Olympics, and you know the season's just starting again now. It's relentless, and it's been a great summer of sport. So, you know, I'm really looking forward to the new season. We're going to talk about Arsenal, and there's been some fairly significant kind of stories break since we've last been on, and you know we've got to talk about it. There was a huge story, not a story today, a huge piece of news today coming out about a particular Emile Smith-Rowe and how he's now going to be a Fulham player, and it's tough to see. Personally, I think, you know, for an academy player like Emile, someone that's come up through the ranks, to see someone like him, you know, someone like him that was so involved in that kind of rebuilding stage, to see someone like him move on to Fulham and not really fulfill his potential at Arsenal, it was, you know, it was particularly tough for me. Shout out to Ollie, who's in the chat. Thanks for tuning in, my friend. Yeah, you know, it's a very emotional transfer, I think, personally. I know Karras was laughing about it, even though he made this video. He's looking forward to getting someone else in. But yeah, Emile Smith-Rowe, now a Fulham player. We've got some slides for you guys. Do comment down below what you think of Emile Smith-Rowe's move to Fulham. You can see the tweets there. You know, an emotional tweet from Arsenal, Fulham saying they've got the new Croydon De Bruyne. Yeah, Matt. I mean, first of all, I'll come to you. What do you make of the transfer? And you know, I think we both kind of share the same feelings that it is a very emotional departure at Arsenal, isn't it?
I think it's an interesting one because I remember we had a similar discussion last summer, and this was when he was getting linked to Chelsea, and we were straight up like, obviously we don't want him to go regardless, but if he's to go, then absolutely not Chelsea. And a season later, obviously he's gone to Fulham, and I think, you know, that December run in, really, you know, when we were struggling big time, we really lacked that creativity. And for him to come in at the exact same time as obviously Saka and Martinelli, who had already been playing, that trio, I think the sad thing is about that type of time is it genuinely was becoming a bit of a chore to watch Arsenal. And I think during, you know, that type of time is when you really appreciate the young players you have at your disposal. And it became almost like a joy to watch individuals, where before it was almost like, oh, Arsenal playing, great, my weekend's ruined again. And, you know, Smith-Rowe comes in, a lot of memorable goals, memorable goal contributions. And ultimately, for me, it's never been a quality thing. It's been a fitness thing. And I think that's really sad. But ultimately, as you say, you know, it's a tough one. It's a very sentimental one. One of my favourite players, one of your favourite players, one of most Arsenal fans' favourite players. I can't hear Rocking Over the World without, you know, just thinking of that song. Not like that wasn't always the case, but it's weird. But football moves on. When you become a team like we've become, it is more likely that transfers like this are going to happen. And it is very much a win-win for all parties. You know, the player gets to play week in, week out. The clubs, you know, obviously paying good money, Fulham have, but get a really, really good player, presuming he can stay fit. And Arsenal, you know, get a very healthy profit, which is all homegrown talent-wise. So get the full fee with that. So gutting one, and all the best to him at Fulham, really. And I just hope, he can stay fit and really, really flourish under Marco Silva. And it's funny as well, because Fulham, enemies last season, ruined our title charge essentially, or ruined our title. And this season, I hope they do well. So there's football for you.
Do you know what? I think, obviously we're Arsenal first here on this channel, but man, I wouldn't mind, if there's a Saturday when Fulham are playing at home, go and watch a bit of Iwobi and Smith-Rowe ball. I would not, I wouldn't mind going to the cottage to watch some of that. Yeah, and what are your thoughts on this transfer? Obviously, we touched on how key he was in that. You watch the Amazon documentary and they really focus on these two players and, Saka and Emile Smith-Rowe and the momentum they really brought to the side and how they kind of dragged Arsenal through that period. What are your kind of feelings towards Smith-Rowe as he moves on to Fulham? And I mean, I've seen some of your tweets, but by the sounds of it, you're 100% feeling this was definitely the right thing. I think I'm fair to say for Smith-Rowe in his career.
Yeah, I think as Matt said, and I think most people agree, this is good for all parties. We get a good fee, which is, as Matt said, all pure profit because he's through the academy. With PSR rules, it's a massive thing now. Such is the weirdness of the PSR structure. For Emile, he needs to play. It's as simple as that. We love the boy, and I think every Arsenal fan. I don't think there's any Arsenal fan who doesn't acknowledge, that the attachment they have to Emile as a Haylender. But we can all see the time has come for him to move on, have a career. His career. Unfortunately, after that season that Matt outlined, where he came in, really, excelled. He unfortunately had problems with injuries, growing pains, etc. And it's really hampered him because in that time, as I've said on other podcasts, Arsenal have grown and gone past him, unfortunately. It's kind of like Eddie Nketiah, Arsenal's evolution has just moved past some of the players, and that's no disrespect to them. That's just how football moves on, and football is ruthless, unfortunately. So we had to make a decision. We'd had this kind of thing with Ainsley Maitland-Niles a couple of years ago, and we made the wrong decision then because he kept him, and we lost out on a chunk of money. So I think this is the wise decision. I think it's good for him, good for us. I think everyone can acknowledge we just want him to stay fit, not to have a good game against us, but everyone else he can have a smashing game. First game. What's his first game? Man United away. We know you. Come on, Emile. You know what to do. But yeah, it's very surreal. I don't think I can acknowledge. When it first came out, and they had the little trailer for him in Fulham colours. I was like, oh, geez, this one hurts. And it still hurts because you look at him, the Croydon De Bruyne. We gave him that name. It's gutting. It is gutting. But he goes on with all our best wishes. I don't think there's a single Arsenal fan who will not wish him the best in his career, in anything he does. We just hope he stays injury free and makes a career for himself.
Yeah, absolutely. And yeah, I mean, for me, watching Arsenal as an Arsenal fan, it's not always been pretty. Arsenal have always kind of sold their best players, and he really, in what I kind of watched from Arsenal, I watched very much. You think of the Emirates Stadium era. That's what I kind of grew up watching, and you've never really seen that success. You've had a few FA Cup triumphs, and that's you don't really talk about the Community Shields, but the FA Cup triumphs have been there, and it's never really been a team that you've really felt can win anything. And he's been part of kickstarting that kind of getting the train moving to get to the stage of where Arsenal are now, and he was a key part of that. And you could say certain people like maybe Ramsdale were also key figures in that kind of team and that kind of moment. And yeah, there's a lot of sentimental value for me, and a player like Emile as well. He's even Arteta said it when he played, was it Luton at home, I think, last season. He's just so aesthetically pleasing to watch. The way he kind of runs and dribbles with the ball, and it's just ultimately been a fitness issue, and it's just such a shame that it's not worked out for him. And yeah, like you said, he goes on with all of our best wishes, and it could be a really kind of painful transfer window, guys. I don't know if you you feel the same when you think that Emile Smith-Rowe's moved on. It's looking likely that Eddie Nketiah will probably head off to France if they can negotiate that fee.
I think
Reece
there's a
Nelson.
recent update with that one actually. I think
Okay.
Romano tweeted about 10 minutes ago that we've rejected their latest bid
Okay.
for Eddie. Yeah, Romano tweeted exclusive Arsenal reject today new proposal from Olympique Marseille for Eddie Nketiah. Understand proposal in the region of 27 million euros was still not considered not enough to let Eddie leave. Olympique Marseille agreed personal terms with Nketiah, but still no agreement with AFC.
I
So
think
there you
that's
go.
fair. I think that's fair enough. I think if we were in the last week of the transfer window, I'd be saying maybe accept it. But with the time that you've got still, I think you should look to get a fee for around between 25 and 30 million pounds for excuse my dogs for between 25 and 30 million pounds. I think for Eddie, when you consider when he has stepped in, he's got that ability to score.
We're also talking about a Premier League. So look, we've seen some crazy transfers this window, and we all know there were some transfers that were for not really for sporting reasons. They were for other, economical reasons. But the valuations put on them kind of put Eddie and Reece into a different light. Players who've got Premier League experience. One of them, Eddie has scored goals at the Champions League level, at every level. So I think this is a good move. I'm actually for this move in terms of Arsenal trying to hold out for more, because strikers are it's a rare breed at the moment. Look how much others are going for. You're talking about Gyökeres, 100 million. You're talking about Osimhen, 100 million. Sesko, 50 million on the contract. I think this is a good move. If Marseille are serious about Eddie Nketiah, put the money up. If you're not serious, then just move on, because look, if things happen as they happen, then Eddie stays, then it is what it is. He's still got a number of years on his contract. And we cannot be seen to be giving away players. It just sets a bad precedent. We're trying to get away from that now. So I think this is a good move. As you said, Dan, it's not the last week of the window. Let it play out. See what happens. If Marseille are desperate, they have the money, surely, because they just spent 30 million on Mason Greenwood, who, again, good player, questionable acquisition in terms of overall. But Eddie's in a similar vein. He's proven himself in the Premier League and the Champions League. So put up or shut up. And I'm sure there will be other suitors as well. I think it's just that there's a slow burn in the Premier League, especially with PSR and trying to make sure there are players out of the door before incomings.
I think just a bit more as well on Eddie. Obviously, Dan, you're more pointing towards the sentimental side of things, which I completely agree with. And we'll get to that shortly. But I think with Eddie, it's also important to know that he used to be England under 18, under 21, under whatever age captain, a captain throughout the youth levels. I believe he was their under 18 top scorer or something along those lines.
I think he's the record goal scorer at England youth level, because I remember him doing a video with Alan Shearer and kind of the two of them talking about it. And yeah, he's got a call up to the national side senior team as well, hasn't he, of England? I'm pretty sure. Yeah.
He's a good player. Look, the fact is he is a good player. But again, like Emile, Arsenal have moved on. The level of Arsenal has moved on, and unfortunately, Eddie can't keep up. That's just the fact. As you said, Dan, at the start of the program, there's going to be emotional times, but football is so ruthless. We have to move on because we're at the top end, and we need quality that's going to consistently deliver. And Eddie, unfortunately, can't do that at the moment. So we need to do it, but we need to do it in a way that's going to benefit the club in terms of cost. 27 million, Arsenal don't deem it worthy, and I totally agree, because Eddie has been more fit than Emile. I know Emile has got, for me, a higher ceiling, but that doesn't exclude Eddie has scored goals, and he's got the talent. And I think it's more of a case of trying to find the right offer, and Marseille are just being a little cheeky as well. I think as well, Marseille are not bidding. The bid is a loan with obligation, isn't it? It's the obligation is like the 27 million or so. So I think that's if it's an obligation, yes, but you've got to put the the right money to satisfy Arsenal's needs. We'll see if Fulham are serious. If Marseille is serious. If Marseille is serious, but there surely will be. I'm sure someone like Crystal Palace or someone else will be saying, "Look, we could get a really proven goal scorer here. Let's put the money in." I think it's just a question of when.
I think Arsenal aren't stupid. They know not only that obviously he's on 100k, which slightly negates, the value he should bring, because I genuinely think if you're not talking about stupid wages or stupid wages given, the types of clubs in for him, I think you're looking at a 45 to 50 million pound player. And I think his reputation, everything he's done, the fact he's even managed to keep up, even with Arsenal going to this next level, even though now, and it's become clear enough that we've outgrown him, which is once again, as Yeam said, is not an insult at all. It's important that, we essentially are like, Marseille can keep trying to, use that advantage because Eddie wants to go there and Marseille are the only club right now. But as you said, Dan, that we're nowhere near the end of the window. You've got a lot of Premier League clubs, which I'm sure we are very aware of, could potentially have interest or mask their interest. Maybe there could be a world we try sort something out with Pedro Neto and Eddie Nketiah. I don't know. That's just a possibility. But there are Premier League clubs with a lot of money who want proven players and want players with a great track record in the Premier League. And if Marseille keep trying to not belittle that fee, because I completely understand, you're just not going to get the same type of ballpark financially from outside the Premier League as you are inside. But I'm sure we are very much thinking we've got no reason to sell. As you say, he's got, quite a few years left on his contract. We will sell, I'm sure we're aware of that. But all we need is a Palace to enter the conversation, a Wolves to enter the conversation, and suddenly that price goes from here to here, just like Smith-Rowe. So people were talking about maybe a 25 million, and we've ended up getting a 35 million with a 10% sell-on clause, which is not bad at all. So 35 million pounds, I think that's very possible if Premier League clubs do get involved, even with 100k wage-wise.
Yeah, I agree. I think minimum, I think they should be looking at around the 30 million pound mark. For Eddie Nketiah. Again, there's no reason to rush. There's still plenty of the window remaining, and he might be a number 2 or a number 3 on some of these clubs' kind of priority lists. So, if these clubs in the Premier League, like you say, are looking through those lists and they can't get their number 1 or number 2 target, they look at Eddie Nketiah, then they might register interest a little bit later on. So, like you say, there's no rush, I think, unless someone offers a really good offer that Arsenal can't turn down. I don't think there's any rush to sell Eddie at this point. And yeah, like you said, he's on a really good contract, and it's quite refreshing to see Arsenal in such a strong position over someone like this, rather than lose him for next to nothing. So yeah, really refreshing to see this window, and Reece Nelson could potentially be another person added to that. We will talk about transfers a bit later. Just before we move on to the next bit, there's just over 500 people tuned in. Thank you so much for listening and watching in tonight. Really appreciate you being there. If you can subscribe or follow us at AFC Newsday or AFC Newsday on YouTube, then that would be a big help for us. So please do make sure to do that. And also comment down below what you think about Emile Smith-Rowe and his move to Fulham. Is it one that you'll feel sad about? Eddie Nketiah, do you think Arsenal should hold out for more money? Do you think they should just take the money whilst they're offered it? What do you think with Eddie as well? And we will talk transfers a little bit later. But yeah, do leave a comment down below. Next, lads, there's a new signing. There's a new boy on the block. We've got Ricardo Calafiori, who's signed for Arsenal on a long-term contract. He's a defender. Not afraid to admit it. He's a very, pretty man without sounding strange. He's, he
he's
could be
beautiful, mate. He's beautiful.
Yeah.
Look at that. It's like it's a Maldini regen, isn't it? Look at that. Look at that hair. I've advocated for official Arsenal wigs. This is it will sell out like hotcakes.
Honestly. That would be interesting to see.
New poster boy.
Yeah, exactly. But Ricardo Calafiori, he signed for Arsenal from Bologna for a fee expected to be around 45 million euros, roughly. He's a defender that can also play left back, which I think might be where he's deployed, potentially. Obviously, you've got Timber and Tomiyasu that can play around there. He's also played as left midfielder, according to Transfermarkt. So, yeah, another player that looks incredibly versatile and exciting at Arsenal, in the building, someone that clearly Mikel Arteta wanted. Yeam, how do you feel about this signing, and what have you made of kind of what he's said so far in his kind of early Arsenal days?
He's really well spoken. I mean, he looks enthusiastic. We've seen players come in the door at other clubs, and they're like, "Yeah, It's really good to be here. You could tell he was smiling. He was really happy. You can tell he's going to be a good character. I think this is very important when we talk about any Arsenal incoming. Mikel does his homework on the character. Will they fit in? Will they rock the boat in terms of squad harmony? And it doesn't seem like that. I think he's really enthusiastic. He seems quiet, well spoken, and I put my implicit trust in Arteta and his signings, especially when he's outlaying so much money. I mean, I think people got a glimpse of him in the Euros. He was Italy's best player by a mile because it was a very poor Italian squad this Euros. Seems to be a very atypical Arteta signing, versatile, plays well on the ball, can invert, very tall. I think the height profile that we're looking at, and maybe it's something that we'll talk about, is very Mikel. 6'2", 22 years of age. Still got a lot of room to grow. Let's not understate it. He's a very, very good player. But there's room to grow, which I think Arteta likes, actually. I think he wants to be able to mould some characteristics into him. To me, he feels like, and this is not, I don't know if this is true or not, because obviously we don't know how Arteta thinks. He feels like a Ben White for the left-hand side. Play centre-back, can play left-back. Maybe, as you said, Dan, will start in the left-back role. But we don't play a typical left-back. We all know that. We don't really play that role. But I think it gives us really good options. I think we played Saliba, Gabriel, Ben White a lot last year. Having both Calafiori and Timber back just adds to that depth and versatility that we can rotate players properly, given, it feels like the Champions League is going to be quite long and arduous this year with the extra games. I think this is a very astute signing. I know people want the attacker, they want the midfielder, and we'll get to that. But this is a good signing. I think this is one of those unicorn profiles that Mikel just couldn't pass up. It's it feels like a signing that they said, if we don't do it now, someone's going to get him, which we all know about. Juventus, Real Madrid, surely Man United. There were Premier League clubs, Man United, Chelsea.
Yeah,
were in discussions. So I don't think we could let this one go. I think we had to execute this one quickly. Maybe it's not one that we would have prioritized, but I think because it was clear that the Euros were going to drive his price up and that he was going to, other clubs were going to get interested. I think we just had to do it, and I'm really happy with him. I'm looking forward. Hopefully, he will start the Bayer Leverkusen game, or maybe he'll come on because I think everyone's excited to see him.
For sure. And I find it interesting what you said there as well, Yeam, about the height thing, because I don't know if you remember a few years back, but Max Aarons was linked with Arsenal, and everyone was like, "Oh, go sign Max Aarons from Norwich." He's a left back, I believe, and he is, yeah. And I think there was an Athletic report that came out and said Arsenal, never properly really considered Max Aarons because of his height. And I remember a few people at the time were like, "What do you mean because of his height? He's a brilliant player. You don't need tall players to play fullback." And now you're seeing what Arteta's doing with the back line. You can really kind of see what it meant by that.
It feels like the Invincible era again. Physical, large. That tunnel. Everyone loves that tunnel shot last year of Arsenal. They're looking.
I think there's a few.
I know. Yeah. It's also. Do you know what this year is going to? Obviously, we're going to talk about the other potential signing for Arsenal, but that lineup is looking very physical, very technical, and that scares people. Look, no matter what you say, football is still a psychological game. Players get intimidated. If you're a big lad and you can play, they're like, "Ooh, all these little things can make and break. The psychology of a player going into a game." So I think it's a very astute sign. I don't see any downside to this one, in terms of the fee is high, yes, but for international quality, 22-year-old, I don't think any of us can say that that's not a bad fee at all. 42, I think it's like 50 million euros, 42 million pounds, which is actually pretty good for a standout Euros player.
Is he actually 22?
He's 22 years old.
He's 1 year younger than. That's insane. That's insane.
But let's also, and I think we all know this. He has had, I think one thing to temper it with is, he played the full season last year with Bologna, and I think that was his first full season. He's had quite significant injuries, and his first one was really significant. His knee apparently exploded. Oh. So I think we have to manage, again, we want him to play, but this is a different level. This is a step up. We are talking about, you're in the elite now, in the elite league. at the Premier League level and the Champions League level is not the same as Serie A. With all due respect to Serie A, Premier League is an intense level. Then you've got the Champions League as well. So I think people need to temper their expectations. He will play, but Arteta has shown that he won't necessarily play them every week. I think he knew it with Saliba, Gabriel, and Ben White because they're durable players. But again, we don't know this man's durability yet. Give him time, let him bed in. He's exciting, yes, but we've got options to cover him. Timber's there. We've got Ben White. You've got Zinchenko, who again, Zinchenko, I think is dropping down the pecking order.
Tomiyasu.
Tomiyasu again.
Yeah.
I think the news has come today that he will not make the whole of pre-season now, which is really concerning. So
yeah,
it's good options to have, but I think we just need to temper everyone's expectation. I think he will be a really good signing, and I think he will make that left-hand side his own because I just feel that for Mikel, he's the perfect kind of profile. He feels like a Gvardiol, but already ready to play at that left-hand role effectively.
I believe he himself compared himself to John Stones style-wise.
Yeah, he did. Yeah,
if he's a left-footed John Stones who can play left back, then I think we're quids in. But I think as well we just need to make sure that we don't over-hype the player and put so much pressure that I know he doesn't seem like that. I think he's got so much belief in his own ability, but I think for us this year especially, we have got the options to make sure that the players are fully rested and fully rotated properly.
Just looking through his stats last season, he made 37 appearances in all competitions. That was 30 in Serie A. And I'm just looking through to see there wasn't any injuries. There wasn't any injuries last season for him.
I think that's his first. I think that's his first
yellow
full season,
card,
isn't it?
Yeah, a yellow card, just yellow card suspensions, and then looking to the 22-23 season, he made 34 appearances. He didn't feature in a few games due to a torn muscle fibre, and there was like a one game where he didn't feature because of an unknown injury. But I think the season before, the 21-22, he only played 12 games, and there looks like there was a significant injury that year. So,
there's a big elephant in the room here, by the way. Just have to say, Arsenal Football Club have signed an Italian defender from Italy.
The only caveat is he's got experience outside of the league because he went to Basel for a year. So he's already.
Just generally, I can't believe it. Us signing an Italian.
I know, but we've got bad experiences, haven't we? The Locatelli deal, I think we all knew was. I think we all still got PSD off the Locatelli deal. It's amazing that we actually have an Italian in the rank. We have two actually. What am I saying? We've got the most Italian. Have we got the most Italians in the Premier League effectively in our squad?
Maybe.
You'd have to work that one out, but
well, I'll have a look in a bit. Matt, give us your thoughts on Calafiori signing for Arsenal.
I think it seems really exciting. I've not watched him loads, and I think as Yeam mentioned, the fact that we still got him for what we consider as a very reasonable fee, even with the clubs in for him, even with us not selling a defender, seems like the one position we were willing, or the one player we were willing to kind of sacrifice any departure before signing them. And the fact, obviously he had the season he had with Bologna, but that Euros, the hype is really important and really exciting. And I think what I've heard and what I really like profile-wise is I think he is of that John Stones type of mould. I really like how front-footed he is in tackles and stuff like that as well, how he can play very high up, which is perfect, obviously, for the system we play. I really like what I've seen offensively from him too, because I really think left-back is such an important role in this Arsenal team, and I think it's so underrated, because I think if you want to play, for example, a Havertz as like a second striker, or Havertz further forward in the midfield, or something along those lines, then you need a left back who's going to help the left winger. Otherwise, they're just completely isolated. And I think when you have Calafiori, who can almost do a bit of everything, really, start as a left back, but as we know, do all sorts as a left back. Come into the centre, dictate the game, control the game, push up, get involved defensively a lot, overlap, hold width, just do a lot, I think, which is really important. It'll be interesting in the future if Arsenal still do go for like that left-back dynamic of like a Davies or a Theo Hernandez or someone like that, or if we return for someone like a Jarell Hato in the future, maybe neither. But I think, it's a really good signing. really like the little I've seen of him, but I'm more going off the profile. And the fact he was at the Emirates in January is sensational.
You like that one, Matt, don't you? No, I
I,
like your. Go on, Yem. Go on, Yem.
I think we're trying to solve the left-hand side. I mean, it's very clear. Our right-hand side is phenomenal. We already know that. It's consistent and it delivers. But the left-hand side has had problems. We know Martinelli's had huge issues last year. Because Xhaka left, Zinchenko's inconsistent. You then had Kivior playing. I think Mikel just wants to sort that side out, and you can see it this window. And I'm sure we'll talk about the other potential incoming in that, get that left-hand side sorted, get Martinelli playing again, because without a consistent left-sided midfield and defender, I think he's really struggled. And that's just a travesty, because Martinelli is so good. I can't believe the slander that's going on with Martinelli, that we should be getting rid of him, etc. The guy is, you saw it against Man United. If you get everything right around him, he will cook. He is so good. He's probably our second best striker of all in the club. Works hard. And I think we need to make sure that we have the tools, which I think Arteta wants to have around him. Because remember the season before, when him, Saka, and Erdegaard, what was it? 20? I think Martinelli had 20 goals in all competitions.
He was up there. He was up there. Yeah.
15 in the Premier League, I think, and he was one off the record.
Could you imagine if we'd had him last season? If he was properly firing last season, I think we would have won the title. No disrespect to Trossard. I think Trossard has been an amazing player for us, really clutch. But Martinelli gives you something different. We see it when he is on form. And I think trying to get that balance back properly is a key thing, because obviously we don't want to, Zinchenko is good on the ball. I think we can all acknowledge that. But as we saw against Liverpool and too many times last season, most of the goals we conceded came from the left-hand side. So you need more reliability in your defensive actions. And Calafiori, for me, certainly does that. He's, much more. That profile of that back line. If you think about the first choice, and I'm not saying it is going to be the first choice because I don't know where Timber's going to play, but Calafiori, Gabriel, Saliba, Ben White, they are all 6'2" plus. That is insane. And it's, he likes a header. He's front-footed like most of the defenders. I think this is. I'm literally salivating, and I hope at some point, Saliba's not back yet, but I think the day that we have all of them together and playing consistently, if they play together, and again, I don't know what Arteta's goal is, but the thought of that consistently being the back four is just so exciting. It just feels like the defense has finally clicked. We've got every piece that we needed to for the first choice.
What almost excites me even more than having that back four? It almost excites me more that we have the options we do, because we can't, not disrespectfully, but we can't pretend it's sustainable for Saliba to play every single minute and be a key player in other tournaments. Gabriel, similar type of thing. I think I saw in an Athletic article recently that Arteta wants to have 8 or so fit defenders available. And I think it's so important if we can get to a point where we're far less dependable on individuals, and it's no longer a case of we're signing a starter. It's a case of we're signing a first teamer. It's, it shouldn't be a case of, oh, he has to start for you. It should be a case of, oh, he has to be involved with the first team, because you've got Timber or Calafiori. One of those two is going to be benched most likely, and if Ben White does, or one of those three is going to be benched, which is unbelievable to say, but it's so exciting, because I think it's easy to forget, as you mentioned with the Champions League new format, it's easy to forget quite how many games these guys are going to have to play. So
don't forget, Ben White was in a strapping for quite a lot of. Do you remember? He was strapped up. Gabriel, I believe, played with an injury for the last few games of the season. So we want to avoid this kind of stuff, don't we? We don't want to be overplaying players. And I think, to your point, Matt, it's just exciting to have the options and to try and rotate them correctly. This is the big thing. Mikel's got the tools. He's got to rotate them now properly.
This is the thing with the next name I'm sure we'll be bringing up as well, is, Arsenal's aim. I think people love the idea of having level raisers, but they don't really seem to use logistics. That level raisers aren't available whenever you want them, whenever, however. They're strictly going to be market opportunities, which you have to beat probably every other team in Europe to get, such as a Declan Rice. It's not going to be easy to
Or you
just
overpay,
decide.
or you overpay for it, which is not, Arsenal can't do that. We're not going to ever overpay for that
Exactly.
kind of play.
So you have a window like this one, for example, where we'll still spend, I'm sure, like a decent amount of money considering, but you have a window where you probably have a net profit, which I don't want to say it's necessary because we're in no financial issues and it's more a case of, one in, one out. But we want to be as self-sustainable as possible. We're not going to be a team who spends 200 million every summer without, drastic incomings financially. But now we're at a point where sponsorships are doing brilliant. Financially, we're at a point. Edu made a comment at the end of his recent interview. I don't know if you guys have seen it, saying that at the start, no disrespect, but all the players were 26 or 27 years old on high wages, and it's near impossible to get them away for big money. So it really is a case for me that you have a big squad, but you have a squad of young players, a squad of players where you're not overly dependent on one another. And I think the next name we're going to bring up almost epitomizes that importance of having level raisers. And ideally you have a few difference makers, a few players who really raise that ceiling of the squad. But someone like a Musiala will be incredibly highly sought after next summer. And then players like Vinicius Junior and Mbappe, all the true level raisers of this world, are never going to be available. So
we will get there. We will get there with names and who Arsenal could sign next in the transfer window. But Calafiori, really exciting signing, I think. I agree with Yeam. I don't think, I think people will have to kind of manage expectations with him. And it'll be interesting to kind of see who slots in there. If Yuri Timber will go in at left back, Tomiyasu's got fitness issues. Maybe Calafiori might go straight in there for the start of the season. Who knows? I guess it could be a shootout between those two, Timber and Calafiori. But Ricardo, he's in the building. Talking about those the defensive back line last season, William Saliba, it was very, very well documented. He played every minute of every game for Arsenal in the Premier League last season, which is insanity. He made 50 appearances overall, 50 in all competitions. That's 3,420 minutes in the Premier League, 902 minutes in the Champions League, and then 90 and 90 in the Community Shield and FA Cup. So,
and then plays the Euros as well. Which, remember, he went from the thing with Saliba, and this is just a side note. I'm sidetracking again, but isn't it refreshing that finally Didier Deschamps actually got a clue?
He actually played him,
actually played the best defender in the world.
Yeah,
in the first team. And what did he do? How many clean sheets do they keep?
A lot.
So he's played a lot of football, and he probably deserved that extra rest because I think he did get extra rest compared to other players that went out at the same time. I think Havertz went out at the same time as him, so I think he did get a little bit extra, didn't he? So, but it was well deserved. There is no doubt in the world anymore. I don't know if anyone. I don't know anyone who can say this. Probably only Rudiger is probably with him. But in terms of the best defender, it is very, very clear. It is William Saliba.
Incredible. I think what I love as well, just quickly on Saliba individually, is almost like a bit of similarities, except obviously being way younger, so it's far more about Deschamps. But when obviously he was first under Arteta, obviously he had the few loans. He didn't get beat up about it, that, he's not considered this elite defender in Arsenal or in Arteta's mind just yet, and he wants to, get in more experience. Just like he didn't get beat up that Deschamps said there are areas of this game he doesn't like. Instead of, putting up any kind of fuss or anything like that, he, I saw a tweet during the Euros, which was France have lost their two biggest cat players in Varane and Lloris, and they've looked better for it. And that is just testament to Saliba, being told that there are aspects of your game I don't like, hence why you're not starting right now. And to be then, a bona fide starter for France just speaks volumes about his mentality. And
bona fide starter, and he looked the best. Considering that Upamecano was the one who's played there more, who looked worse? Who gave away the penalty? It was
didn't concede a goal until the semi-final, bar that penalty, which wasn't him.
Exactly, and it wasn't his fault either. He was the standout defender for me in the competition. Obviously we talked about Calafiori, but it was clear who was the standout defender in the competition. It was William Saliba. Considering he played every game, it's unreal how calm and how good he was.
Yeah, loved watching William Saliba.
Sorry,
like you said,
it's fine.
we can sidetrack. It's fine. I'm going to sidetrack again back to your question you asked earlier as to what team has the most Italians in the Premier League. And Arsenal are actually joint top with 2. Obviously, Jorginho and now Riccardo Calafiori. Any guesses quickly for who the other team is? Really quick, no time to think. No.
I was going to say Chelsea, but I don't think they've got any anymore.
Well, according to this, they've got 2, but they've also put Maresca as one of them.
Casadei. What's Casadei?
Casadei.
I think so, yeah.
Casadei, and they put Maresca as well, but he's not a player, so we're not counting that. But the other top team that has also 2 Italian players in their team is Tottenham. They've got Destiny
obviously,
and Vicario.
Yes.
But there's barely any Italians in the Premier League. Just looking at the Premier League, Brighton have 1, West Ham have struggle. 1, Leicester have 1, Tottenham have 2, Newcastle have 1, Chelsea have 1, Arsenal have 2. That's it.
But they do struggle, don't they? It's kind of like English players going abroad as well. There's very few. They prefer to stay in their own league to make themselves known. And it's very rare that one will actually leave. And when they do, it's a very big deal. I don't know if you guys saw the video from the Juventus fan who was absolutely raging at signing of Calafiori. And he said the FIGC president should get involved to stop this happening. I was like, this is so good. This is honestly what we've been waiting for. The hate coming from Italian fans, because it's just unreal how, especially Juventus fans, when they think that everything flows through Juventus. And it was beautiful to see when it all happened and the meltdown. It's always funny to see the Italian fans absolutely lose it.
Let's move on next to pre-season. And pre-season so far, we've had a few games over in the States. By the way, there's nearly 1,000 people tuned in at the moment. So thank you if you are tuned in. If you want to join in the discussion, anything we're talking about, feel free to leave it in the comments section. Give your opinion. We'll give you a shout out. Please do follow and subscribe as well, if you can. AFC Newsday on Twitter and AFC Newsday on YouTube as well. Any of those subscriptions we really do appreciate here. We're talking about pre-season next. 3 games. We've seen a draw, a win, and a defeat. You've seen everything over in the States.
A win on pens and a loss on pens as well. So we're not.
Yeah. I'm going to be completely honest off the bat here. I did not stay up and watch any of them. What does that make me? A loser? Maybe so. But I didn't stay up and watch any of them, unfortunately, just because of work and my timing didn't allow me to. But Matt and Yeam, did you catch some of the action?
All.
Yeam?
I got 2 of the games. So I got the United and Liverpool. Matt's got too much free time. I have a smidge of free time. So Bournemouth I didn't catch. That was just way too late. 3:30 in the morning.
Yeah.
Started at 3:40, by the way. Just
exactly. That's the other thing. That's what I really hate. British people keep to time. We actually kick off at 3:00. What is this?
Unless you're Man City.
Oh yeah, that's true. Yeah. But the shoddiness. Like when you turn on the TV, you're like, all right, 1:00, get it on. 3:00, we'll be done, but in bed. There's like 10 minutes of waiting, and you're like, what is this? Come on.
That's American sport. That's American sport, so it happens across all of them.
That's ridiculous.
I know. But we will. Let's go over this briefly because I do want to talk about some other stuff too. But Matt, what did you make of the pre-season action you did catch? Were you satisfied? Can you really take much from these pre-season games?
For me, to sum up each game in about 10 to 15 seconds, I think the Bournemouth one was against a Bournemouth side who will basically be the team they play next season. Obviously different, in America on a different pitch and, with less fitness than they were in the actual campaign. But we played 3 17-year-olds. We played Salah-Ad-Din and the youth are the winners of pre-season. We'll get onto that shortly. But I was pretty impressed with that game. Hine made a few good saves. And Bournemouth's goal was very, very fortunate, to say the least. A nice goal of ours, although I think it was... No, it was Vieira's volley. Or was that a United? I can't remember.
It was Vieira.
Vieira's volley.
You can see in the if you look very closely, you can see on the slides.
Lovely. That is a good point, actually. So a lovely volley from Vieira. The youth, as I say, thrived in that game. Bournemouth, they didn't really make too many youth changes until late on, so it was a nice thing for our star 17-year-olds Obviously, Lewis Skelly and Ranieri, everyone's waxed lyrical about them, and rightly so. But Aidan Heaven too. It was nice for Sago Jr. to get a few minutes. Nichols at right back played quite a bit in those first 2 games, which was great to see. You had a few other youth players. I think Jimmy Gower came on late on as well. The United game, I think, first 20 minutes, United were by far the better side. The rest of the game, we were by far the better side, completely comfortable. Obviously United played a lot of youth, particularly second half, and so did we. So, it's not exactly a first team affair in that sense, but a really enjoyable one that. And some nice goals to boot too. A brilliant ball from Ranieri, although I think he was offside. And although in that second half, the linesman kept flagging when I think Trossard was a good 4 yards onside, or Martinelli was. So that evens out. And then the Liverpool game, I think we started the game better. Liverpool, played pretty well, had their moments where they exploited our high line really effectively, particularly, Salah, a bit of a mismatch, I'm afraid, and a brilliant goal from him. And then Harvey Elliott, who I think is a special talent, he assisted the first and a brilliant ball in for the second. And it was great to see Kai back on the score sheet. And then I felt like it was a case where we dominated the game, but Liverpool weren't overly under threat. So all in all, a good pre-season. No, crazy takeaways. Just the main thing is the youth are the winners of pre-season. And that's great to see because, I feel like previously there'll be a lot of players who take up the youth minutes. And I think the biggest surprise of pre-season is Salah-Eddin. I think how tidy he was on the ball, how fluid, really technically excellent. And I hope he can put his injuries behind him, hopefully get a new contract, get a good loan move and potentially be a part of the first team later on, or, get sold for a good profit. And then, of course, Ranieri and Lewis Skelly, which I don't need to say much about, particularly Ranieri, because, everyone's hyping him up to the level they are for a reason. But Lewis Skelly playing in that inverted left-back role was really, really interesting, a very interesting pathway for himself. And Heaven, I was really impressed, particularly mentally against United. So all in all, pre-season's pre-season. We've still got 2 Emirates Cup games to come next week. And I'd be intrigued to hear your boys' thoughts on them.
Yeah, and before we come to you, I want to just say, American fans, right? They're a bit, respectfully, a bit wild, and they do things that the UK fans wouldn't do, as demonstrated in this next slide. Who the hell cuts out Leandro Trossard's face and blows it up to that side and takes it? That is wow.
That's
Can you
scary. That's scary.
it's like his emotionless face as well. Just yeah.
I've not seen that.
I don't get it. I also don't get the whole having fans mixing. It feels really weird, and it feels like you can't actually have that. Look, I get that you want to integrate fans, etc. Great, but the whole point is that you feel there's an energy when you're all together that you can grow it, and the noise it makes, and just the vibe I find from having dedicated sections of fans, even when the away fans are smaller or bigger, etc. It just feels a little bit wrong when it's mixed in. It just, I don't know about you guys' thoughts, but I just thought I never get that when you can mix in. I prefer, that whole home and away. It feels very tribalistic when you do that. And
it's another American thing though, right? Because American football games are all they're not segregated in American football games. Everyone's kind of mixed in there as well, I'm pretty sure. So
yeah, I just find that really odd, and it feels like it's. But I guess in football, it's very, as I said, tribalistic. We have, these are deep seated, issues, not issues, but rivalries. You could never see a Tottenham fan mixing with an Arsenal fan on the North London derby day.
You see it though, and they get kicked out straight away, or they get, their safety gets put in danger effectively because
it's, again,
people will go for them.
Yeah, but the whole point is that it creates that rivalry, that heat. These games need that heat. I find that some American games lack the intensity because the fans create the environment, and I think what I love about English football is that the rivalries, the etc. There's no feeling like the North London derby. I think we can all acknowledge when we play the North London derby, it is just a different level, especially if you're lucky enough to go, which I am. It blows my mind that day. As in how intense it can be, how lively it is, the banter, everything. But the American model, I'm just not keen on.
Yeah, no, fair enough, fair enough.
I
I
think
do love.
another thing, just to quickly say on that as well, is the whole point of generating an atmosphere is having fans together where you can generate an atmosphere. You have fans next to each other from different clubs. How on earth are you meant to generate some sort of coherent atmosphere?
I think as well, you get the back and forth, which is such a key part of the atmosphere in England and Europe in general, and South American football. That you get that back and forth. You wouldn't get that if you had everyone mixed together. You just get like a cauldron of noise and people probably fighting each other more.
Yeah, it
Like
just
it
feels.
was,
It just doesn't feel quite right. And look, I get it. In America, it's not as tribal. It is very different. As in
you get it at
even
rugby. You obviously get it at rugby in this country as well.
yeah, you do. I just think that it's for me as a football fan. Maybe our American friends feel it works for them. Just for me personally, it just doesn't feel right in these kind of games.
Yeah, yeah. Can I just say, by the way, you mentioning the North London derby's got me excited because, I just look forward to that game every year. Arsenal got Tottenham away first, right, this season for the first time in like
Yes.
5 years. It's at Tottenham first, right? Because
Yeah,
it's been.
I'm pretty sure. A fun fact, I can't remember. I think I looked at this when they got announced. I don't remember exactly. But since 2008, we've only played Spurs away first twice
Wow.
at all. Which
I was going to say it's been a long time, and it feels like it's always towards the back end of the season at Tottenham we play them, doesn't it?
yeah,
But
and
yeah,
it's always you just. I know for the last couple of years we've done well. But before that, you were like, I mean, remember the first game at the Tottenham Stadium, wrong time, injuries, etc. So hopefully we can just get this one out the gate quickly. I prefer the Emirates. The North London Derby, the Emirates is just different level.
yeah.
It's towards the end of the season and we are in the race, which I fully hope we will be. Then it's going to be what a day that's going to be, and tickets are going to be like a gold dust. Honestly,
Yeah, I'm looking forward to all the fun that will come with it next season. Yeah, I can't wait for it. Pre-season, it seemed good. Still got a few more to go. Still got the Bayer Leverkusen game.
Do you mind if I just quickly comment on the preseason?
Go for it.
I thought it was a good preseason. Got minutes in the legs, no injuries, which is a massive thing. Look at Man United, how many injuries they got out. The main thing is you do not get any injuries. You can build up the fitness, build up the tactics. Look, Liverpool, I think we all knew what was coming when Salah against Zinchenko. It wasn't even. I think every Arsenal fan went, yeah, it is what it is. Zinchenko literally was falling over himself each time. But players got minutes. We got to see some of the young players, as you said, Matt. Salah-Eddin and etc. Really, really positive. I think it's been a good preseason so far, and I think the main thing is you build up fitness and you don't have any injuries. That's the biggest takeaway for me.
Yeah, 100%. And like you said, Manchester United, the situation there with what is it, Euro that's going to be out for like 3 months now.
Euro's out, Rashford's out, Højlund's out. That's insane. Do you? Quick question to both of you, and really quick.
Go on.
Do Man United push their? Is there some element of they push too hard? Because last year they got a lot of injuries as well, didn't they, on the American season?
It's interesting you say that because I did hear from a colleague say that Manchester United were making a notable effort to take it, to lower the intensity slightly this year. So the fact
that the first 20 minutes didn't say that to me.
Yeah, but apparently that's what's kind of the talk behind the scenes has been. They made a kind of conscious effort to lower the intensity in those the pre-season games. So
I will say that Lenny Yoro experienced Gabriel Jesus for 30 minutes and decided to dip out. Let's be honest. That tells you everything for the season, doesn't it?
That injury is brutal, though. But I've got to say though, well, to be fair, no, that injury was brutal. I tried to cover it. I forgot what I was going to say, and then tried to come up with a new sentence to remember what I was going to say, and now I forgot what I was going to say.
It's all right,
the
Matt,
original point because it's off that. Was the question is what I meant.
What's the question?
That's it. I remember
injuries.
now. I remember now. If you're making your players run from one side of the pitch to the other side of the pitch every time they sprint, you are going to get injuries. You know, you look at Arsenal, for example. it is not a coincidence that Arsenal and City, particularly in the back end of the season, have their squads fit, because the systems are so compact and they're not mentally draining, where you're expecting them to run from A to Z at all times, which United were doing big time last season. You had Mainu, for example, or that midfielder was playing as a number 9 sometimes, and then they were back defensively. With us, that's different, because we're so compact that when a player like, a Havertz or whatever goes deeper and helps track back, it's all within good time, and also a player who's just ridiculous work rate wise. So you've got to be very careful. And, hopefully for United that they can sort that out, because injuries are like...
Don't forget who the club doctor is at United. Doesn't bode well.
Well, Gary O'Driscoll is a very nice... I've had the pleasure of meeting Gary O'Driscoll, and he's a very nice man. We'll leave it at that. Shout out to Leandro Trossard, though, and that guy that decided... How do you print him off like that? That's what I want to know.
How do you get that in the stadium?
That's a work job.
How do you find a printer that large to make the face? Yeah, I wonder if Trossard saw that. That would have been.
How could he not?
Sorry, when you're getting searched before you scan the stadium, it's like, oh, hands up, yep. Yeah. Oh, got a Trossard cut out. Is that all right? Yeah, sound cool. You're in.
There you go. Arsenal have got 2 more pre-season games before we kick off the Premier League season. Wednesday, the 7th against Bayer Leverkusen, and then the Lyon game on Sunday, the 11th. Shout out to the EFL and Championship season starting on the 10th. Looking forward to that. And then they start the season against Wolverhampton. Wolves, first game, and then Aston Villa away. You've got Brighton, Spurs, City, and then you've got Leicester.
Not an easy schedule. That is not an easy schedule first.
It's not an easy start. And we will look more at the start when we get a bit closer to the season starting, on the week of the season starting. But yes, a few more pre-season games to go. It's been good so far in pre-season. But I do just want to end the stream by talking about transfers. There we go. We'll bring everyone back in. We want to talk about transfers and who Arsenal could sign. There's been talks about Mikel Merino. I will admit I've been slightly more out of the loop this summer, because I kind of streamlined the accounts on my timeline for transfers and stuff. I respect to him, but Fabrizio Romano, I've had him muted for the transfer window, because I find it just gets a little bit too much sometimes, and I like kind of the more selective reporting information when it's actually information. People like David Ornstein, I think, does it very well.
There goes our chances of getting him on the pod.
But shout out to Fabrizio Romano, because I do respect what he does. But just for my Twitter feed this summer, that's personally what I went for. But Mikel Merino, by the sounds of it, is someone that it looks like it could happen. He's a midfielder for Spain and Real Sociedad, I believe. And yeah, coming into the final year of his contract, 28 years of age, and someone that was a real standout at the Euros. Shout out to nearly 1,100 people tuned in, by the way. Appreciate you being there. But yeah, Mikel Merino could potentially be that next name in at the Arsenal. Have you seen much of him aside from Comps Yeam? What's your take on Merino from what you have seen? And I mean, his profile in general, do you think, is he that Xhaka replacement that Arsenal probably needed about a year ago?
He's as close as you're going to get to Xhaka. I think, again, as Matt said very eloquently, this is a floor raiser. I don't think people should be expecting he's going to be the solve to the left-hand side, but he's got very good attributes. Passes reasonably well, good height profile. He's a dual monster. I think everyone's seen the stat. He is one of the most, I think Alexander of the Different Knock, shout out to him. He put a video together where Mikel was typing in on Google, who has won the most duels? Who's won the most duels in Europe? Popped up Mikel Merino, went, that's it, I'll take him. Because, yeah, he is a dual monster. He loves the challenge. Good header of the ball. I think we saw that in the Euros. I think maybe a lot of people have seen him playing for Newcastle when he started out. Very different profile now. He's physically more developed. Looks really is a physical specimen. Again, we come back to that. He's 6'2" again. So it adds to that kind of profile that Arteta's looking for. So I think this, to me, for the money involved, 25-ish million, 25, 30 million euros, it's a good buy again. Doesn't necessarily, it's not a game changer, but do we need that in that midfield? We want stability. We want someone who's left-footed, who's going to be consistent along Declan Rice, because unfortunately, to me personally, it looks like Partey physically has dropped off quite a lot through the tour. I don't think he was there physically. And then you've got Jorginho, who is getting on years, still a really good player, but getting on in years. So you need that kind of depth. And I still think we will probably need one more. I don't know if we'll get that, but we need one more. But I like the profile of Marino. I like the price of Marino. I think this makes... Oh, God. No, don't do that to me. But I think this is a good transfer if we can get it over the line, which is, from what I understand, this is reasonably progressing well. And I think I'd be very surprised if it doesn't get done.
Matt, do you think that Marino would slot into that kind of left 8 role that we saw Arsenal play last season? It almost looked like the one position, aside from maybe left back, that they couldn't really settle on a player for. Do you think Marino could come in? Obviously Xhaka played that role so well. What was it now, 2 seasons ago? But do you think Marino, if he does come in, do you think he could slot into that role? Declan Rice a bit deeper in a 6, Marino in that left 8, Odegaard the other side. What's your take on positionally where he could set up?
Yeah, I think definitely. And I think for me, one of the biggest things with Yeam mentioning that, maybe another midfielder on top of that, is I want to get to a point where I feel like you look at last season's squad and you look at about 7 or 8 players where if you lose them individually, you're like, that is not great. You lose Saliba, you're not happy. You lose Gabriel, you're not happy. Obviously Timber. You lose Rice, you feel like you're screwed. You lose Saka, you feel, screwed. You lose Martinelli, you lose an outlet completely. You lose Havertz, every player, you lose Ray, etc., right? So many players in that squad contributed so heavily and played so many minutes that I think it's so important that Arsenal get to a point where basically any player injured will always obviously be a miss, particularly if they're a consistent starter. But I don't want to be at a point where, I don't know, with Saliba or a Gabriel or in this midfield scenario, a Rice or someone like that goes down and I feel absolutely like this is going to do us over. Because as good availability-wise as these guys are, I don't think we want to be in a position where injuries are the be-all and end-all for us. And I think... Yep, go on.
No, I was just going to say that's what's been there with Thomas Partey kind of during his stay at Arsenal, I think. When he's gone down, it's almost been so frustrating how much Arsenal have had to rely on him because he's just not been fit. And when it's come to when you really need him, those moments towards the back end of the season where you've got tough games, you need the midfield to step up. He's picked up an injury which has kind of kept him out for the rest of the run-in, and it was only really last season, but he was injured for the majority of the season, had a number of setbacks, and he came back for the run-in and kind of showed in moments a bit of what he can do. But again, like Yeam kind of said, I don't know. You don't want to have to rely on him, and I don't think... I mean, me personally, I don't think I can trust him to stay fit for another season, and I don't want to have to rely on him to be... when Jorginho came in, he did a brilliant job, but he did the job. I don't think he really exceeded expectations in the job he did. And, no disrespect to Jorginho, I think I think he did the job very well. But Thomas Partey had that kind of something special about him when he did play and when he does play, and you just wonder, the small sample size we've seen of it is just so frustrating.
We're not going to get back to the Thomas Partey of 3 seasons.
No, I agree.
He's dropped off so much physically. The one thing, I think there is an article out there in the internet where Arsenal are concerned around his general fitness. I don't think it's his technique. I don't think anyone can, belittle his passing or his ability, his press resistance. But when he tracks back, he looks so slow now. It's quite stark. It feels like a Casemiro drop-off almost.
Yeah.
And I wonder if something in Spain, him and Casemiro had a kind of similar path from the La Liga to the Premier League. One good season and then a massive drop-off. So something's clearly there, but I think we have to address the problems in the midfield. And as I said, I don't think one is enough. I won't be crying if we go into the season with just Marino, as the addition from the midfield, but if we truly want to ensure that we don't have an issue, especially on that left-hand side, then I think we would. I know we've heard the rumours of Fabian Ruiz. I don't know if how true that is, but that's a good shout as well. The only problem I would say, and the only risk we have, is Erdegaard. So I still don't think we have anyone who can replace him. I don't think Vieira is even close to Erdegaard. If Erdegaard,
especially with now Smith-Rowe's left as well, it looked like towards the back end of the last season we kind of saw it where the Aston Villa game, Erdegaard, that was the first time I think when Arteta said afterwards, "Oh, Erdegaard felt something. He didn't feel like he could continue," and I think he missed a game after as well. But Smith-Rowe came in as that kind of replacement, and like he clearly chose Smith-Rowe over Vieira. And if if Vieira is kind of the next option that can go in there.
The only other option I can think is Kai Havertz. The only other option I can think is Kai can drop into that role, but you don't really want him there because obviously that doesn't make use of his talents. But it's a risk
as well. But it's a huge, obviously, reliability on him, and we have no idea how much involvement he'll have.
Do you think you could play Saka there? Because I know it's just a wild observation, but that a long way back. Do you remember the COVID season? When Arsenal played Sheffield United at their ground, the season Arsenal won the FA Cup, Saka played in like a 10 role, and I remember being really impressed with him. I don't know, maybe you could move Saka into 10 and then Jesus onto the right, maybe.
Maybe. I mean, there's options there at least. I mean, the other thing as well in terms of incoming transfers, obviously we're thinking about a winger. I think that's on the agenda, or a striker, something in the attacking third. But it'll depend on that actually to see what options we eventually get, because again, if we don't get another attacker, I think that does leave us exposed a little bit for the start of the season, considering that we were still short. We don't know if Jesus he looks fit and looks lean and he looks a lot better. But again, like Thomas Partey, can you put your hand on your heart and say he will be fit? So I think I would be shocked if Mikel Merino is if he does arrive, is the only one to come in. I still think we've got a lot of work to do.
I think something underrated as well about people talking about, for example, João Neves, is I think the one thing with Erdegaard, which people not fail to recognise, but I think people don't really think about so much, is how his best work comes from deep. So even hypothetically, if we were to put Nwaneri and think he's of the level as, the focal replacement, Nwaneri deep isn't really what you'd want to do at the minute, because that's far too much responsibility on a 17-year-old, whereas he's far more likely to be further ahead. And although Kai, I think, particularly defensively, can do a brilliant job in midfield, I think he's wasted in midfield. And if he's going to play in midfield, I want him to be as, an attacking midfielder, not when he first joined the club and was almost like a second six. So I think I completely agree that I would like to have another midfielder, but I think it very much is a case that other midfielder needs to be someone which it will rely on Thomas Partey leaving, which seems increasingly unlikely. But that midfielder who can play as a six, can cover for Declan Rice, and you'd be confident about it, and also almost like a Locatelli type of that type of profile, but someone who's just a bit quicker. And Onana for me would have been the player to spend the money on, particularly with the other Premier League clubs in for him. But
my only issue with Onana is you're paying 50 million for someone who's so inconsistent. It's a lot of money for inconsistency, and I don't think we can afford the inconsistency in our squad anymore. I think, again, as I said before, we've moved on. You kind of want that guarantee. My preference would be if, from availability style, if Fabian Ruiz is available for a loan with an obligation, that's such a no-brainer to me. What a player he is, Again, the only thing is he is 28 again. He's very similar to Mikel Merino, but that's a great profile. Can play 6 or 8, left-footed, and he was absolutely superb during the Euros.
I think one other thing though with like a Fabian Ruiz shout is we've got to remember, not disrespectfully to other leagues or anything like that, but the number 6 we play, and obviously the physical backline we have almost slightly negates the importance of as much height in midfield, but we don't want to be in a position where Rice goes down or anything like that, and we have no one to cover. And I think even if we brought in a Fabian Ruiz as well, you'd be looking at makeshift options as a 6. So I think very much I'd love to have someone who does their best work deeper, basically a deep lying playmaker, but someone who is also an aggressor. An aggressor, someone very tall. A Marino is perfect for that left 8 role, I think. And I think I haven't really spoken too much about him. I haven't watched him loads, so I could pretend I have. But from what I've heard from La Liga fans, especially Barca fans and whatnot, that he has been a player for many years who has been a very desired player. Someone I think has been in only him and Tony Cruz, I believe, have been in the La Liga team of the season for the last few years. I don't remember the exact statistic, but for me, it's the type of Kovacic signing City made last summer that you think, oh, is he actually that good? Or, oh, is he the level? And then he comes in and you're like, wow, this guy's really, really good. And I think as well, kind of on that topic, kind of going a bit off, but I think it's worth mentioning, is people bring up the level raiser stuff, but every single club we've signed from, with the exception of Martin Odegaard, and I'm sure you could find one or two others, is not a club you'd be like, wow, that's where you buy top players from. And that's no disrespect to any of the clubs. But, we had a starting keeper from Sheffield United at a point. One of our starting players is Brighton, St. Etienne, Lille, West Ham. This obviously has a few anomalies, but I think, it's very important to know that it's not always a case of just trying to get the biggest and best because they're just not available. And it's a case of buying your time, making sure when the biggest and best are available, you're in the best position to buy them, but buying the smart signings, which increase the ceiling a lot and make it so, as I said, the injury wise aren't so much of a concern. As I say, I do think it is very Thomas Partey leaving reliant on us signing another midfielder, which frustrates me quite a bit, but that's the reality of it. And I think whatever happens, we just don't want to be in a position where one injury to, obviously our number 6 is the be all and end all. As good as he is, I don't want it to be a case where, you have an injury and you can't respond.
The other thing I think as well is we will look at a market opportunity. If something comes up which you think, like a Sesko or something like that you go, okay, I understand why we're doing that one, because the money is, if a Neto became available 30 million or something, I'm just spouting, I'm not saying that's going to be the case. But then you'd say, okay, I'm going to have to, we have to go for that one. The market opportunity is too high. That's the only thing I can see in terms of unless we sell very, very well. And I mean, we get everyone out the door that we want, then maybe we would go to look at a bigger signing. But I think people are getting a bit ahead of themselves thinking about Nico Williams, etc. I don't think Nico Williams would be, I think we were alive to it, but I don't think he wants to join anyway. I think he's made it very clear where he wants to go eventually. So I think
it's very hard to know with him, to be fair, because going on to unless if you guys have anything to add with midfielders or defenders or anything.
No, I was just going to say, I think you've got to give credit to Edu and the job that he's done since coming in. He gave that interesting interview that Matt you notioned towards about the kind of profile and the job that he was faced with when he came in, and I remember it was almost quite tough for Arsenal to actually get Edu in when he first, because he was involved in the Brazilian national team, and it's quite hard to actually get him in at Arsenal at one stage. And I think he's done a brilliant job. From the days of when Sky Sports went into his office and kind of asked him, do you know what you're doing? To the way that he kind of navigated round it and spoke about the profile of players in that day, and you look at the work he's done now, I think you've got to really, when you talk about the project and the journey, I think he's played a very key role alongside obviously Arteta and a lot of the players in that role. But Matt and Yeam, I do want to wrap there. It's been an hour and 20. We've got just coming up to 1,200 people in the stream, so thank you so much to everyone that is tuned in, and thank you both very much for your time this evening. We will be back again on the week of the season starting. We're not far away now. What is it, coming up to like 3 weeks away, something like that?
2 weeks. We're
soon.
2 weeks. Can't wait.
Really looking forward to it. Thank you so much again. Nearly 1,200 of you. If you are watching and you don't recognize any of us, then our Twitter handles are just here on our screens. Please feel free to drop us a follow. Please follow at AFC Newsday on Twitter /X. And then you can also find us on YouTube at AFC Newsday. If you can subscribe, that would mean a lot to us. So thank you so much. If you're watching back, appreciate you sticking all the way through. Matt, Yeam, any final kind of words from yourselves on the stream, on the season you're looking forward
Calafiori
to?
wigs. That's all I'm saying. Calafiori wigs. I want to see them. I want them sold on the day I will be buying.
Who would you get to wear one first if you bought one?
You know who. There's only one man who's going to be able to carry this out. We need FK to put this wig on. He's got it will change, life changing, I think. Shout out to FK. Life changing, I think it could be. It's the only person who I think we could market this perfectly.
Yeah, maybe it's a business we should start up. Yeah, the two of us. Let's put our heads together and.
Why am I not in this then?
Well, Matt, you didn't say you were interested.
I didn't say I wasn't.
Who is interested in Calafiori wigs? My God.
Where are we going to get Calafiori wigs is the question.
We'll cross that bridge when we get there. Matt, Yeam, thank you so much. It's been great speaking to you as always. Again, if you're watching, please do follow, subscribe. Check out Matt and Yeam's socials. Great guys. We will be back. We'll be talking whenever they're signed. We'll be talking about them on the week building up to the season. We'll do a stream to preview the season, and then at some point in the season, we will also have a studio podcast for you guys to enjoy. So make sure you stick around, you subscribe, you follow us for more of that content. And yeah, have a great evening. Football's coming back, guys.